work for it, ride for it, I'ma organize for it, stay up in the night and in the morning I'ma rise for it, heart for it, mind for it, ears for it, eyes for it, peace and a place on this earth for me and mine for it, work for it, ride for it, I'ma organize for it, stay up in the night and in the morning I'ma rise for it, heart for it, mind for it, ears for it, eyes for it, peace and a place on this earth for me and mine for it.
Peace. Thanks for tuning into the Money Power Land Solidarity Podcast. This is special holiday edition.
Hi.
This is GP Jacob. I'm here with Andi Snow, friend and comrade. And we're here talking about cannabis today, the lovely, beautiful medicine, cannabis. And we're sampling right now some legal medical cannabis. So I figured this would be a good time to just check in and talk to somebody who's making use of our newly expanded, to my understanding, medical cannabis program in Minnesota.
Yeah, they just started doing flowers. And it's funny, like, I'm going to say this a lot, but it's okay if we talk about what we're sampling.
Yeah.
You're sampling the mixed low THC, but like just as much CBD. And I'm sampling the high THC. So my little pre-roll from the state is 28% THC. Which, yeah, we were talking about this before. It's just like good weed, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like that level, basically.
Some good weed. This is my first time seeing it, and it comes in these cool little canisters. I don't know if I'd call them cool, but they're little canisters. And it's 2 pre-rolled joints. And what I like about it is it's a half-gram joint. It's not like a huge joint. It's like a nice size. I just hit this a couple times. I'm enjoying it. The combo with the CBD. One thing that we were discussing is, like, as somebody who, you know, lives in a state where it's not legal, I have very limited experience with labels. So I don't even necessarily know, like, what THC percentage means what, you know?
Right.
But it's cool to, like, know what I'm getting then. Hell yeah.
It is cool. And, like, from the medicinal standpoint, it's really nice to have the weed that has CBD in it. I used to actually take my really nice, beautiful organic weed and mix it with half CBD weed that I got from the gas station. Hey. So it's very cool to not get my medicine from the corner store anymore.
That is cool. No, it's real. I'll do that when I can. You know, I'll buy them expensive, like, CBD sparkling water drinks sometimes.
Yes.
And drink that while I'm, you know, I smoke.
While
it's a
you're
part
smoking.
of my daily,
because you
habits.
have to mix it. Like, for me, like, experiencing, like, pain relief from CBD, I don't get it unless I mix it with weed.
Wow. So can you talk about, like, what you know, what condition do you use cannabis to medicate? Or, like, that's a weird way to say it. Like, how did you get into the state weed program, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my journey with state weed actually started with just legal advice. My lawyer was like, just get your medical card and stay out of this kind of trouble. And I was like, bet.
So you got into some trouble because of
Allegedly.
There's a chance. Yes, I feel you.
Yeah, but so it came through that way, but I have always medicated with weed, and I have fibromyalgia, which is like a chronic pain disorder, and it causes pain in your myalgia of your body, which is the connective tissue between your bones and your muscles.
Damn.
So it hurts everywhere,
yeah,
all of the time, and yeah, like getting on medicinal weed, like, since I went through the process, I was like, well, I may as well check out what they have and see the product. And I agree. It's not cool. I was telling you before, like, the clinic is super lame. Their marketing is lame. Everything's kind of whack, but the product is good, you know? It's like high quality weed, for
honestly,
sure.
It made me think about that because we were talking about it where it's like, it looks like what they're trying to do is, like, copy something you would see in a dispensary, but it's just, like, kind of the bland, generic state version of that.
Right.
Which is, like, when you compare it to, like, what you're seeing in the dispensaries where there's so much attention paid to the marketing, it's like, yeah, it's not as cool. But then I realized, like, when it comes to, like, the cannabis economy, I'm like, I like seeing all those, like, all that marketing and, like, the art wrapped around it is cool to me. And I also realized that it's about getting people, like, good organic medicine. It could look like the co-op where you got the jars and you just come in and take your shit out and put it in your own plastic bag if it has to, you know? It's like...
That's pretty on point.
Yeah, it's like
That's it's almost there for sure.
Real shit. Was it a big hassle to get your card?
Well, so since I have this disorder, I have a really long documented history of it. It was actually really easy, just expensive. So I actually have my acupuncturist, who is my primary caregiver, write a note talking about how many years she's treated me for this disorder and how I already utilize weed as medicine.
Hell yeah, good for you.
Yeah, and it's on file. And so now, the thing is really just the payment. I think to start up, it cost me almost like $500 or something like that.
To get your license and everything?
To get everything I needed. And then it's like an annual fee. I just paid it, so I should know, but it's like between $100 and $200.
And then do you have to buy
and then
weed
you have to buy
every
the
time
weed.
What's the prices like?
So it's retail prices, and I'm like not used to paying. So it's like comparable. Other people say it's fine. Like it's like $50, $60 an eighth, but I'm like, that's way too much.
That's a tax though. That's a tax.
I smoke wholesale quantities.
Yeah,
like
really
I can't
though. For real.
I can't deal with it. But I don't really get like you said, is newly expanded. They just started doing flower. Before they were just doing the concentrates and edibles and topicals. And
that's why I was shook when I seen you smoking and say that you had flower that was provided through the state medical program, because I had known other people who had the program and they were saying that they don't allow flower.
I think it started like this month like that was like the second time I took state weed home, and I just had to share it with the world because like, this is hilarious. Y'all look at this.
Swear. Damn, where do you go to get it?
It's right downtown. It's the weed store, you know? It's like, it's really close to, it's kind of close to like the IDS. It's close. I don't know. It's not close to anything.
It's down there.
It's downtown. It's right downtown. It's super discreet. Like you probably would pass it and not even see it.
I wonder, do you know who grows this weed? Like where this weed was grown?
I don't know where it's sourced from.
So I'm imagining they have to like basically contract grow operations, I'm sure, right? And I'm wondering if it's Minnesota companies. I have a lot of questions about it.
I do too. And like, it's really interesting to see like the way that, because it's been so medicinally based, and like you were saying, like it's been really about, like it's run through the state health department, right? So it's not run the way that we're used to seeing weed businesses run, like in California or even...
Which is interesting.
It's super different, right? So you don't have folks who've been like in the community who are familiar with growers. I would bet they're sourcing it out of California, just because there are more dealers and middlemen that they can deal with.
That's where like the economy is built up and people are set up to have this type of relationship to the state.
Totally. And I know it was one thing I was like definitely wanted to talk about, because it's like very personal for me. Like a really good friend of mine, Grant, was on the forefront of weed activism back in the day, like when they had dispensaries in LA, but the feds would come and bust them all the time and stuff, you know? So he dealt with like Fed raids, and he was out in the streets protesting and all the stuff that, you know, that we all do now, like just knocking those doors down. And that, I think that has a lot to do with why it's so cool in LA and why there's so much art, and why like, the way they package it. We were just talking about like some people keep it. I have like cute little packages from LA, like with these glass blunts, and like
I still got a little zipper pouch that I got my first time I went to California and went to the dispensary myself. I like open it up sometimes and like sniff it and stuff at home. I'm like,
because it's really fucking cool. And then like, and that was interesting too, because from an activist perspective, they were advocating for weed to be decriminalized, essentially, like not with that language specifically, but like that's really where the heart was and what people's goal was, is this should be for everybody, you know? Not necessarily just medicinal. And then from that culture, like where everything's set up as a business now and super legitimized, it's still really cool from when it went recreational in Colorado. And that was such an interesting leap, because then you had all these people like in LA, and it's like it's diverse. It's people of the community, people who use weed, who know it, who love weed like almost too much. Like it's like
dedicated
annoying.
their lives to weed. Yeah.
It's like they're bros about it. It's funny. To like Colorado, it was all about profit. It was all about like douchey investors,
Right.
white guys who do a bunch of blow and don't even smoke weed, like
Right.
own all the companies
Facts.
in Colorado, and it sucks. It just sucks.
Nah, and that's like, you just like hit it on the head as far as like talking to you about this state medical weed and then thinking about like the state of cannabis in relationship to like the state in America and the government. You know, of course we want like legalization, decriminalization. We want cannabis to be free and people to be free of prohibition. But then it's like, I remember this stuck with me. I think I might have said it the last time we recorded. I was listening to something, somebody said, like, if you think about legalizing, that means putting something inside the framework to be a capitalist commodity.
100%.
And that's like, people then are realizing they're not talking about cannabis as a medicine or as a piece of our culture or as, they're talking about a market and a commodity. So
100%.
how, as we want to take it out of prohibition, how do we not let it be dominated in that way?
Right, exactly. Like we have to learn all the lessons from both of those situations. And like the lesson from LA, I think, which everyone has taken to heart now, is legalization also maintains social stratification, like in racism, right? Like where you have like tons of people in prison on minor weed charges. They're black, they're Mexican, they're indigenous people, and you have white bros making millions off of it.
Yeah. I don't know too much about there was like a bill that went through the House that was voted on and passed, I think, that would have federally decriminalized. And it's not going to go anywhere because the Senate is going to
right.
is going to block it. But, and I don't know too much about the details, but I seen that it did have some like expungement of records. And like, I don't know if it was really talking about letting people out of prison like that, but that's what they need to be talking about.
I would hope so. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they are talking about expungement and then like getting it off the record, and that does not include getting people out.
Fuck that.
Right,
yeah.
right. And we know how the system works. You could have gone in on a weed charge years ago and just still be there.
Yeah.
Bullshit that you rack up while you're incarcerated, So like we can't just go out and get those people out because now they're going to say, oh, but they're being held for all these other charges.
Right.
When they weren't supposed to be here in the first place. But yeah, like that expungement and stuff, that's all like super important. Some people can't work with children, and that's like their passion, what they care about, because they utilize medicinal weed or recreational, whatever. Yeah, I don't know where the lighter is. The perpetual smoking problem.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why that's what I was saying. Like they weren't really utilizing the language of decrim, but like those were the lessons learned in trying to push for legalization. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know you and I are in a place where we get very frustrated with our local political landscape and like the way people move, but there's something that I always appreciate about like our like Midwestern wholesomeness, right? Like there are a lot of problems with our weed right now, and like it is really expensive, and that just inherently is a problem. But like it is framed around health, like first and foremost, and I feel like it just gives this like legitimacy to it in a way that, I don't know, I hope other people get to feel it, because ever since I've been on medicinal weed, like I said, allegedly I had some legal problems and to help with that I had to prove like how much it was medicinal, and I like had a little thing I was doing with one of the pharmacists from the state, and we were working together, and I was documenting when it was used for pain relief and when it was used for anxiety relief and when it was used just for fun. And I came to find out, like, I was telling you earlier, I smoke a lot. And it's almost all medicinal when I really think about it. And I kind of didn't even think about it that way. I thought, I was like, well, I'm a stoner. I like being high, which is true.
Yeah, but it's like,
luckily.
That's super real. And it's like, honestly, even if it's like, okay, what if I smoke to relax and laugh? Is that not medicine?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And for a lot of people, hitting the weed is like one of the only ways you're going to allow yourself to open in that way. Oh, my bad. So it's like, I really feel you, and it's like I don't want to ever like bow down to prohibition and frame something in a way that it's like it should just be free, you know, for anybody, even who wants to use it casually or whatever. But it's also really important to stand on the fact that it is an incredible medicine. It's a medicine in so many ways. You know what I'm saying? You were telling me with fibromyalgia that the pain centers that you have in your body, there's also cannabinoid receptors at that part of your body. It's like it really is something that's really beneficial for human beings and that we've evolved alongside of. It really is a medicine, and like accepting that is real. It's weird how we grow up in like prohibition culture, so you can like it puts like a weird like ooh naughty type of thing
like
on
I'm
everything.
shaming myself for trying to, like you said, like kick back. Like we're working class people. Life is stressful. This shit's hard. Like
I swear, man,
we've earned our kickback.
Yeah, you know, and people don't get weird like that. Like if you're in a culture where it's natural for somebody to like crack a beer or whatever, which is cool if that's what you do. But then also if somebody wants to light up, it gets weird. It's like that. Yeah, we got to. You got to
go to another room or whatever.
Yeah, I want to get back to like what type of like selection did they have? Like we talked about, we got 2 different joints burning now. We got a CBD, low THC, and a high THC.
Well, it's funny because we were just talking about like out in the wild, you know, procuring medicine in the wild. If you know a dude who has like 4 strains, like that dude's the shit.
Yeah, I swear to God. You really feel like a baller if somebody pulls up with a duffel bag and you got options. That's like a day to remember in Minnesota.
I love that dude.
I swear.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of...
What happened to bro? Who has his number?
It's actually kind of like that. Like it's like a rotation of like 4 or 5 options, and then like there's like pre-rolls, and then there's like eighths that you can buy in those little jars. And yeah, like there's usually 4 or 5 options, and like sometimes there's a little variety between the pre-roll and the just loose flowers.
What type of package do the loose flowers come in?
I would put it on my little unboxing video that I did.
I'm gonna link up so people can see what they're doing with.
Yeah, and it's it's like a little jar, like you would find like beauty products in, kind of like a regular,
nice
night cream jar size.
I prefer a jar to a bag, honestly. A jar is nice.
A jar is nice. Yeah. Like you were saying, like at the co-op, like let's just refill these. Like these are nice little glass jars. Yeah. And like I love that. Like let's just spin into it's lame. Like it's super lame.
Or more so like, man, if you could, I'm down with like, you could go to the shop and get your boutique stuff that comes with like a comic book and some more shit. I'm with all that. I love it.
Yeah.
And also it's like, I want to be able to walk barefoot and like look at the plant with the gardener, you know what I'm saying? And talk to him and like, you know, I'm like really like, I keep thinking about that. Like, what would it look like if you were to take the initiative on the local level? Somebody who really loved cannabis and had like a socialist vision. It's like, how could the state be used to build up the economy where you had like a thriving network of grow operations, retail operations, people making product sales. There's so many healers in the Twin Cities. There's so many healers in the hood. You know what I'm saying?
And farmers, we have so many radical farmers.
Exactly.
Like, I think people would love to invest their love and energy into that.
Well, how could this? Yeah, like what? I don't pay attention to like cannabis legislation really at the state level. I should. I keep thinking about it, but it's hard for me to pay. Like I should actually look at like what's happening in those bills. I do know a few people who are like, I think making moves to be in position, you know what I'm saying? Or like are engaged in that way.
Which is, and it's interesting too, because we're both so like involved in other things. And for some reason, when it comes to like weed legislation, I've always been like, I don't know why in my mind, I'm like, that's somebody else's job.
Facts.
I don't know why.
I do feel like that. And I kind of feel like, because I know, I'm like, I don't have any money. So what the fuck? I'm like, what I'm going to do is like open up the door for some bank to come in and knock somebody out. It's more like, I'm trying to make sure my energy around weed goes to making sure I got it. You know, like
I gotta start thinking more
civically minded. Yeah.
Think a little more socialist. No, I think you're hitting on something though, because long before Minnesota had medicinal, there was a few states that did it, and I know like in my experience in Oregon was like you could buy it from certain licensed growers that were licensed by the state or whatever, or you could yourself license a caregiver. So a friend or someone.
Lit.
Right. And like the idea behind that was like, we're talking about like maybe 2 decades ago or maybe a decade ago. It was a long time. The idea then was like only it was like terminal cancer patients were the only people getting medicinal weed prescriptions back then. So the idea was like, you obviously can't grow it yourself. You're not physically capable.
Yeah.
So you have a caretaker like you would in any other situation. And that actually resulted in some really nice scenarios, exactly like what you're talking about, where like your homie is like, yeah, I will definitely grow 8 plants for you, you know, or whatever.
That is really cool. And that's really important history to know. And it's like, I'm not like a real cannabis historian or nothing, but I have heard those stories of like really the people who have dedicated their life to like learning the plant and like through all the oppression of the state, like really cultivated the medicine. And then we're in direct contact, like, you know, with people. I know like cancer patients, people struggling with like HIV and AIDS, and like those networks, like that's a really important history for us to like know and lift up. That's dope.
Yeah, very true. And like, I think people who do psychedelics speak really clearly about like, it's a relationship with the plant. The plant is teaching you something. You're thankful for it, for giving its life to you. And I feel the same way about weed. Like
100%.
You know?
100%. Yes, definitely. It's like, honestly, for me too, I'm like, I'm not necessarily like I do smoke for fun with people sometimes, but it's like, and that's cool, I can do that. But a lot of times that can even be more difficult for me. And weed really is actually a part of like my spiritual, creative, mental health practice. A lot of times something I do for myself, with myself.
Totally.
As a part of my daily routine type shit. You know, and it's not always like, and it's not necessarily something that's like makes me always forget all my worries or something. It's more like it'll bring my worries to the surface, but it's a part of I need that in order to like show up in my day. You know, like, so it is something like...
Well, and like, it's ritual too, right?
Yeah,
like, we don't have a lot of daily spiritual practices as Americans, you know?
Big time. It's praying, you know what I'm saying? It really is in a lot of ways. Like, it's definitely a spiritual dynamic to the plant, like, 100%.
Right. And like, always when there's smoke, right? Like, then your message or intention or whatever it is being lifted up every time you smoke. And that's like you were saying, like it brings your shit to the surface. Facts. Actually.
Yeah, definitely.
My friend Grant, talked about before, he was a lot like Doug Benson. He really wanted to like prove that stoners could do shit. So he had this thing, he always said highly motivated. So it was like you get super high. So it like we had to accomplish the height of the same height of like how high we were. Yeah. If we sat and blazed all day, he's like, y'all better do something now. Like we gotta do something big. Go.
Real shit. That's funny as hell. I really feel like that whole like lazy stoner stereotype, man. I don't know how people could hold that if you really knew people who smoke. You know what I'm saying? Like
for real. I'm one of the most. I have like 3 jobs.
I swear. The hardest working people I know smoke, and smoking is a part of their process. You know what I'm saying? It helps you deal with the body pains from working all the time. It helps, and it picks your mind up. It does different things for different people. And it's like, hey, if you want to smoke and be lazy, if you got the money, do your thing, bro. It's whatever. But it's definitely like, it helps me get up and go.
Right. And I do get that like little like capitalism whispering in my ear kind of thing sometimes, where I'm like, I will be like, well, you didn't earn it, you know? I was like, fuck that.
I got that voice strong. I kind of like it too, so kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like
balance, yeah.
Hey, I seen they got little waxes and stuff too.
Oh yeah. So this is another thing. I love the topicals, like we were talking about before. It has like it goes right to the cannabinoid receptors in our body. And that's beautiful. But yeah, we have this. You know, check that out. It's
there's some shit I don't know about.
You used the word distillate before, which was like the very professional word that they use, but it's dabs, right? Like dabs. You know those like jokes like, why would you ever want to time travel in the past? Like it's always worse in the past. I saw like the best take on that recently was like, why would you want to live in any other time? We have dab pens. I was like, damn, that's like the most convincing. Like, fuck a flying car. We have dab pens. Like, you can get high, very, very high, very casually indoors now. And it doesn't smell. You know, we were talking about this before. Like, we're both responsible parents now. And like, that's a real interesting balance that we have to strike, right? Because there is so much stigma against weed. Like, you can't just be smelling like weed and being someone's parent out here. But you can smoke a dab pen in your house.
Figure out how to put it back
All
on.
day. That's all right. Yeah, I was gonna like, I don't know. I was gonna maybe like show you how to do that, and
Oh yeah, let's do it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I haven't messed with the pens too much, but it is an amazing thing. I know it makes it really easy for people to like to do what they got to do. It's such like it's so foul that like the smell of cannabis is like can bring so much danger to you.
I know.
You know, it really is.
It's such a beautiful smell too.
I swear to God.
Like when I was younger, I used to walk around just smelling like weed constantly before I had a child, and people always were like hugging me, like, "Oh my God, you smell so good!" Like, that's just weed.
Exactly.
It's nothing else. It's being difficult.
All right, so we got to narrate for the people right now. We're like,
Yeah,
what are we doing right now?
We're looking at.
We're looking at some distillate. It's like amber in color. It's in like a syringe, I guess you'd say.
It is a syringe.
It's a syringe.
Blunt
It looks like
and syringe, and you can see
honey.
it has 2 grams. It does. It looks like honey.
wow.
Yeah, and there's another thing too, right? Like out in the wild, when you get distillate, like sometimes I would judge the darker color and be like, "Oh, that's probably not good." I thought it would look really clear. Was really good.
Oh, okay.
But I think this amber honey color is very pure, so it gives me a good standard now to know what to look for.
Basically, like what this is like people have figured out how to distill the plant in a way that it like removes the plant material. This is like is this just THC that's like in this distilled form?
Yeah, so that's just THC that comes from the same flower that the flower weed that they sell from. So yeah,
Okay,
it's
bet.
super, super, super concentrated, and it's not completely natural. Like we were joking before, like dabs really took weed to a different level.
Yeah, a lot more equipment got involved.
Yeah, a lot more. That's a good. I like that word. A lot more equipment. A lot more just questionable behaviors.
Right.
Especially in the early days, we would torch stuff. But this is in a syringe. But they, I think it's like butane or something. So they do actually like break it down with chemicals. And then that's why there's different levels of quality to it. Because like if you have a really professional back charging machine and system, they will press all of that chemical out.
Okay.
Right. But it did touch gas, right?
Right. The gas touched gas.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you got it set up. How
Yep.
do you get it out of the syringe and how do you take it in?
So I have my batteries here. I thought I had another one of these. So you have your battery.
Okay,
then
which
you
is
have-
like, it looks like the little vape thing. That's what a battery is?
Yep. So the bottom of your vape is the battery, and then the
Okay.
cartridge is up here. And then here, hold this. And then I gotta take the little top off. It's hard to do like one-handed because it's all like little tiny parts. Oh, cute! They have a Samoyed. That's the kind of dog I had when I was a baby. Sorry.
See, this is why I couldn't do the dad thing. You see me like crouching in the bushes outside of like a meeting real quick, trying to take a hit before the meeting, like just unscrewing and screwing shit.
No, it's not gonna work at all. So now I'm just warming it up because it's like it needs to be warm to move out of the little syringe, and then I'll just put it in here and like squeeze it into there and fill it up.
What?
Yeah. I'll see if I can do it. It's probably not warm enough. Yeah. Sometimes I just like tuck it in to like the seam of my pants or something. Get really warm, like body temperature.
So you're like manually filling the little cartridge
Right.
on your pen.
Let's just pretend like I did it.
All right, bet. It's like the Food Network. You're just about to cut. Also, we're just both chopped. It worked.
Great. I would love a weed cooking show like that.
I swear, I got into I got to shout out Deanna. I've probably done this on the show before, but she put me on the podcast, Great Moments in Weed History.
Oh,
And
nice.
and one of the people on there used to be on the show, Bong Appetit. I used to like those.
Do a couple.
You about to have me fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were talking before, the weed that we were smoking earlier, which was very good weed. Like, do you get stoned off that little tiny joint?
I did pleasantly, you know. I
Nice.
like I definitely did. I feel like I'm not trying to like. I'm realizing I have a mic in front of me. I have to speak into it. I don't want to speak too soon, but I do feel like I could tell there's like CBD in it. And it was lower THC because I feel just like a little bit more presence in my body, a little calmer. I'm like, well, weed gets my mind going. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
A lot of times to the point where like I'll get so in my head that I have to do something physical to get back into my body. But I feel like with CBD, it's like kind of pulls you down more.
Yeah. CBD brings like bodily relaxation.
Yeah,
which I really like. Yeah. So yours was 5% THC and 5% CBD, and mine was 28% weed. And yeah, I feel the same. Like I got reasonable. It felt good. Felt
Definitely,
nice.
yeah. Way to go, state of Minnesota. Not bad.
Yeah. But when you're doing the dabs, it's 76% THC and 4% CBD.
Okay.
So I really like it.
I like the flavor.
Yeah, and it definitely brings that bodily relaxation that I really crave and want all the time. But I will be high as fuck. Like if my cat sits next to me on the couch, my day might be over.
I feel you. Sometimes it's gotta be. Sometimes you just need to sit down on the couch. I don't have too much experience with dabs, but I really enjoy smoking hash. And it's like, it's not the same process. Like you said, it's a different way of distilling the plant, but it's like related also, I realize.
Right,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hash gives me a similar flavor.
Yeah, definitely.
How European of you.
I didn't even know until I got to California. You know what I'm saying? You can buy hash at the dispensary out there. That's like my favorite thing about going to legal states is being able to buy hash. You know? Yeah, definitely.
I didn't even know they sold hash at the dispensary.
Yeah, every dispensary I've been in, I'm pretty sure.
Dang.
In California or Colorado. Hell yeah. Well, I have to unfortunately tap back into the day, but thank you, listeners, for tuning in and celebrating the holiday with us.
Yes, thank you for smoking state weed with us.
Thank you, Andi, for joining us and sharing your medicine with us. You know, it was lovely. I hope everybody out there is doing what you got to do to stay mentally and physically healthy. You know, whatever that looks like for you, just embracing it, going at it, doing what you got to do. Hell yeah, smoke them if you got them. All right, money, power, land, solidarity.
We need money, land, solidarity. If you funny, stand very far away from me. We have running plans about as far as they can see to keep